Rachel Bas Rabbi Yehuda and Avraham and Aaron Yitzchak. We're on Brachas Daf Chof Beis Amud Beis, 4 lines from the top. Michti kol Amorai Tanai b'de Ezra Kamifri. All these Tanaim, Amoraim, they're all arguing in the Takana of Ezra. What was Ezra Misakin? What was his Takana? Let's see. So that's what we're talking about here. So let's just take a look. What did Ezra, what was his takana? How do we know Ezra was Misakin? It says in the Gemorah that Ezra was Misakin 10 things when they came back to Eretz Yisrael. There was 10 takanas that Ezra made. We're not going to go through all of them, but one of them was this Tefillas carry thing. So let's see, what was Ezra Misakin? Ezra Echasikin. Amar Abaye said, Ezra tikkun lebari. Ezra was misaken to go to the mikvah for who? For someone that's healthy. That what? Hamargil, someone that's healthy and is with his wife. Memsa, he has to go to dip in the mikvah 40 sa, regular tvila. Obari, lainsai, teskabin. He was also misaken that someone that's healthy but has an accidental discharge, he pours 9 kav on his head. 20 liters. Vasu Amurai, what happened now? Then the Amuraim came and had a big machlekes. Upligi b'chayla. And they had a fight about, they have a machlekes about a chayla. So Ezra spoke about someone that's healthy. And they have a machlekes about someone that's sick. Masavar. One sheet is chayla amargel kabari amargel. The chayla that's with his wife, it's like someone that's healthy that's with his wife. The chayla line, say kabari line say, or someone that's chayla accidental, it's like your bari line say. It doesn't matter chayla bari, it's the same din. That's what the first opinion is. Umasov, a second opinion, chayla margil kabari line say. Now, a chayla you take one step down. So a chayla margil, someone that's sick but he's with his wife, that's like someone that's healthy, that's accidental. And the chayla line say, but if a chayla has accidental discharge, potomiklum, he doesn't need anything. So the machlekes is a chayla exactly the same as a bari? If he's with his wife, intentional mikvah, unintentional, pour the 9 cubes, the 12 liters or 20 liters, we saw this in machlekes. Or do we say that the chayla is a step down? That chayla, if he's with his wife, he only needs teishak abin. He never needs a full mikvah. Chayla only can take a shower. And if it's accidental, he doesn't need to do anything. That's the machlekes. Okay. Omar Rava says, Nihi de tikkun Ezra tefillah. Ezra was Masakin dipping. Nesilim Mesikin. Was Ezra Masakin pouring the 9 kav? Ezra was Masakin going to the mikveh. It wasn't Masakin showers. V'amamar. We have a member that says Ezra tikkun tefillah, the Barakarian. Ezra was Masakin tefillah, meaning he was only ever Masakin going to the mikveh. He was never Masakin pouring 9 kav of water on the guy's head. So this whole thing, what are you talking about? Ezra was only ever Masakin Tefillah, not Nesina, not pouring water. Ela Marava, so what does Rava say? Ezra tikkun Tefillah, lebari amargel memsa. Ezra was Masakin going to the mikveh, dipping inside the water, if he's healthy and is with his wife, memsa. That's what Ezra's tikkun was. Only someone that's healthy and only if he's with his wife intentionally. Not unintentional, not if he's sick. Only if he's healthy and he's with his wife, right? Vos Rabban and the Chacham came afterwards and said, V'skinu lebari lo teshakabin. If it's accidental and he's healthy, he should pour the 9 kav. Vos Amorai, and then the Amoraim came later, and they had a discussion, a debate about someone that's sick. What should someone that's sick do? So again, Ezra was a misaka for someone that's healthy, that's with his wife intentionally. The Rabban and the Beis Din afterwards, around this time, a little bit afterwards, they were misaken if it's accidental, teishak abin. So Ezra wasn't Masakin Teisha Kabin. So there's two takonos. Ezra was Masakin dipping in the mikvah, and they were Masakin Teisha Kabin. And then there's a machlekes afterwards. What do we do if someone's sick? The first sheet is that it doesn't matter if he's sick or healthy. Same thing. Same din. Either mikvah or teisha kabin. Same thing. Omar Savar, and the other sheet is Lebaria Magam Emsa. If he's healthy, he's got to go to the mikvah. But if he's sick, he's with his wife, he only needs teisha kabin. If it's intentionally sick, teisha kabin. But if he's sick and he has accidental discharge, patur miklum, he doesn't need to do anything. So what it turns out is that Rav is saying that Ezra was only misaken if someone's healthy and he has intentional discharges with his wife, it's intentional, he has to go to the mikvah. There's nothing else who's misaken. Someone has an accidental discharge, doesn't do anything. Chazal, the Rabbanon, the door afterwards, the basin afterwards, some Rabbanon came along and said, if it's accidental, he should pour teisha kabin. Then there's a machlekes, okay, that's great if a guy's healthy. What about someone that's sick? Do we say someone that's sick is same as you're healthy? If he's strong enough to be with his wife, so go to the mikveh also, right? And if he has accidental, he should take a shower. Okay, he's sick. Doesn't mean if he's deathly sick, he's got to take a shower. But he's sick, he's got a cold, he's got something. Should he take a shower? Yeah, take a shower. Or do we say no? If he's sick and it's accidental, he shouldn't do anything. But if it's intentional, he should at least pour the nine kav. That's how Rava understands. Says Rava, Hilchasa, Amarava, Hilchasa, Bari, Amargil, V'chayla, Amargil, Abaimsa. The halacha is, whether you're sick or whether you're healthy, dip, if he's with his wife, if it's intentional. What about if it's unintentional? Bari la inside, if it's unintentional, teisha kabin, you need to pour the 9 kav. But if he's sick and it's unintentional, he doesn't need anything. It says Rav Allah Lamaisa, you potter miklum, potter miklum. The shaila is since we don't paskin like Rava, why does it say? In other words, we don't paskin, but we saw before that we paskin like Yehuda ben Beseira, that nowadays there's no mikveh b'chlal. So why is Rava saying this then? Is Rava arguing on what we had before, that we paskin like Yehuda ben Beseira, that there's no more takana of Ezra? So the Rashba says the whole reason the Rava is saying this is we saw before that you're allowed to be machmir on takanas Ezra. Mikra din, it could be there's no takanas Ezra, Mikra din. You don't have to be taival. But the gemorah says, a machmir tavel of bracha. There's a bracha to be machmir, to go to the mikvah. So he's saying, so Rav is coming to explain what type of chumrah should a guy do. Even if he's sick, should he go to the mikvah? Even if it's an accident, should he go to the mikvah? So Rav is coming to explain what type of chumrah you can do in that shita. Now, there's no point, if someone's sick, he should be machmir, go to the mikvah. There's no such an opinion. We don't paskin like that. He's trying to understand what was ikatakana, that now you'll know how to be machmir. That's how the Rashba wants to learn. But mikra din, we paskin Rav Nachman was after Rava. Therefore, we paskin like Rav Nachman that says that you'd have to go to mikvah b'chal. It could be Rava's arguing on Rav Nachman, and Rava's saying he paskins that you do have to go to mikvah. But either way, we paskin like Rav Nachman that you don't have to go to mikvah b'chal, because he's a basra. We always go with the last one. Even if someone's greater, you go with the last one, because we say that why do you pass with the basra? He saw what the other one said that would be before him, and he's machriya. There's a machlekes before him. But since he's later, he's taking all the considerations, all those things into consideration. So take a look in Taisus, second Taisus, v'lei silchas hakavasei. One second, do we see this yet? No, we're not there yet. Tana Rabbanan. It's all part of the same sugya, so it's confusing. Tana Rabbanan. Balkari shenosan al teisha kabin. It's a Mishnah. They poured on this guy 9 carbon, or Bryce, sorry. They poured on him 9 carbon, right? Tar, what's it in? He's pure. 9 carb purifies the guy. When do we say he's pure? That's for himself he's pure. For other people, he ain't pure, it doesn't help. He needs 40 saw. Rebbe Yehuda says, no, you always need 40 saw. You always need to dip in the mikvah. So what's going on over here? What's this lacherim business? So Rashi says, take a look, Rashi's la'atzmai, it's like the third narrow line in Rashi, fourth narrow line in Rashi. La'atzmai, la'asek b'teira la'atzmai. So for you yourself to learn Torah, if you're a Balkari, Teisha Kabin's fine, Teisha Kabin works. Take a shower. Aval lacherim, Rashi says, what's lacherim? To teach other people. If you're teaching Torah, you got to dip in the mikvah. If you're teaching other people, we're going to see the gemorah later on seems to be saying, if you're going to be moitzi other people with brachas also, you need memsa. So if it's for you, 9 kav is fine. If it's for other people, you need 40 saw. And if I remember correctly, there's a Shas in the Shemaim that says that even nowadays, a person, if he's a shliach tzibur, he should be makpid to go to the mikvah. If the chaz is makpid to go to the mikvah. Interesting. And some people are makpid some people I've seen are makpid not to go to Yomid if they haven't been to the mikvah. Like me, I never go to mikvah, so I never go to Yomid. That's my teretz. I'm going to the mikvah today. I'm sorry, can't go. So, says the gemorah. What's going on over here? We've got a 4-way machalekes there. You busted me. You got me. You're right. Okay, the share is cancelled. I'm going to have to go and make the one of the two. Says the gemorah. Rabbi Yehuda, at least you're listening. Rabbi Chaim, Rival, Rabbi Lezer, Vesi Bachanina. There's 4 guys. There's 2 pairs of 2. This is a tag team, right? Chad Mahayzuga, one of this pair, V'chad Mahayzuga Reisha, and one of the other pair, we don't know who, right? Chad Omar, one says, Ha, the Amrus Bedvar Mumlatzmai Avalachem Emsa. This is the Mishnah says, when there's 9 cubits help, La'atzmai, that's for him, Avalachem, you need 40 sa. Loishanu El Chayla Margil. That's only for a chayla that's intentional. But if he's sick and he's an einus and is unintentional, Teisha Kabin, 9 kav is fine. In other words, this chumrah of the Mishnah that you need to have 40 saw, right? For other people, that's only if it was intentional, this charge. If it's unintentional, then you can be mighty people with your 9 kav also. Then Teisha Kabin helps. So I guess, Lefi that Shas just been the Shemaim, if someone has an unintentional carry nowadays, and he wants to be early for the Amud, if he's sick, showering's fine. That's what it turns out. Okay. I'm not sure what the share, how sick he has to be, it doesn't say. The Chad Omar, the other shita is, the other one of the Zugah said, no. Kol lacherim, if you're trying to be mighty other people, even if he's sick, and it's unintentional, adik memsa, you need a proper mikvah. It's not enough just take your shower. That's the first thing. Now, what about the sefer? V'chad my zuga sefer. Now, these zugas, they also argued in the second half of this Mishnah. The Rebbe Yehuda says, you always need memsa. What does it mean you always need memsa? Chada mahada amar of Yehuda memsa mikol mokayim leishana ele bekarka. Rabbi Yehuda says you need 40 saw. What 40 saw do you need? Bekarka. What does it mean mikol mokayim? Rabbi Yehuda said you need 40 saw mikol mokayim. That's his lashon. Rabbi Yehuda memsa mikol mokayim. What does it mean mikol mokayim? In any place. It means leishana ele bekarka. The memsa has to be in the ground. Right? Ava b'kelim loy. If he's dipping in 40 saw in a kli, it ain't good. V'chadoma afile b'kelim nami. Even in a kli, it's good. Okay, let me just quickly explain what's going on over here. Well, not so quickly. The Torah says you have to dip in a mikvah. That's biblical. Mikvah. Question is what happens if a mikvah is in a kli? So the Gemara makes a drasha. It says you can be table in a mayan, in a spring, or in a mikvah. So the Gemara learns that anytime you dip in a mikvah, it's got to be like a spring. That what? Midaraisa, it should be in the karka, in the ground. In other words, if you have a pool above ground, right? You have a kli. You've got a big soup bowl, huge soup bowl. You could dip in, right? Is that a good mikvah? No. Why? Because it's got to be in the ground. Just like a mayan is in the ground, this is in the ground. So now what happens if it's in the ground, but the water didn't get there by itself? It didn't rain into it. We poured water into the ground. Is that good or is that not good? That's called maim shovim, carried water. You took the water to the ground. So it's a machlekes Rishonim. Is that posel midaraisa? That's not called a mayan. That's posel midaraisa. Or is that posel midarbanon that you might come if you could pour water into the ground or pour water into the pool? That's a machlekes Rishonim. There's a machlekes halacha l'maisa. The Shulchan Aruch says that if you have a pool, now what's going to happen? Now you've got the ground, right? You pour water. You're allowed to smooth the floor inside. You're allowed to tile it to make sure the water doesn't leak out. What happens is you take a kli, you take an intex pool. No advertising. I'm not getting commission here. You put it in the ground. You have a kli. You put it in the ground. Is that called in the ground? Is that called a kli? Shulchan Aruch says that's fine. That's called mikra din. For the rabbanon, you can be saying on it. That's called ground. I think Shulchan Aruch has even. But that's called ground. That's fine. It's not called a kli. It's a ground. You happen to put a kli in the ground, right? But you're in the ground. The Noda B'Yehuda says no. That's called kli. It's machlekes. Noda B'Yehuda is machmir. But l'chayra for Thomas Carey, even the Noda B'Yehuda is for the rabbanon, he says it's fine. You can dip in your index pool. So this guy, for Thomas Carey, the question is over here. What's the deal with Thomas Carey? This guy's going to be toivel. So. The question. So let's back up. Let's see the gemorah again. What are the two opinions? Reb Yehuda says you've got to be in a memsah, but what does he mean? You need 40 sah, but it's got to be 40 kosher sah. It's got to be in the ground. You can't put it in a kli. You can even dip in your intex pool above ground, no problem. That's fine. In other words, there's no problem at all. You can even put it in a kli, and therefore you can also use shovim, even if there's not rainwater, you fill up with a hose. There's no problem. So, again, this is all for darabonans, for biblical tumah. Of course, it's all us. It's got to be properly in the ground. That's why you won't find mikvahs up steps. It's all going down into the mikvah, right? If you have a pool on a high floor and you go down into the pool, is that called in the ground or is that called above ground? Like, I don't know, l'chayr, it's above ground, right? Okay. So let's back this up again. Hold on. Sorry. Bishlam, and the Gemara says, it's all very well that you can dip in a kli. If you could dip in a kli, if you can dip in a kli, in an intex pool, right? That's why Reb Yehuda says, you have to use memsah, but it's fine. Mekom means is coming to include a kli, right? But if you're going to tell me that you can't dip in a kli, so what is this coming to include? This, it says, memsah mikol mokum. You can't use a kli. So what's it coming to include? The suyei mayim shuvim. This is coming to include the fact that you're allowed to use drawn water. You can use your hose to fill up the pool. So Reb Yehuda is coming to be makel. That's for sure kula. The question is, was Reb Yehuda's kula that you can use a kli, you can use a nice big pot, or is it coming to include that you can use drawn water, mayim shuvim? You're allowed to drag the water. It doesn't have to be natural rainwater. Rav Papa v'Rav Huna Brei of Yeshua. V'Rava Bashmuel. These four guys, Rav Papa, Rav Huna Brei of Yeshua, v'Rava Bashmuel. Krichu rifta bahadi adadi. You ever wanted to know what term comes to break bread? It's from thousands of years old. Krichu, they broke bread together. Krichu, like kairach, to break the bread, right? Krichu rifta bahadi, they were sitting together eating. And it came time to bench. Amalu Rav Papa, Havalulu Dida Levroich, I'll bench. Why? The Nafal Eloi Teisha Kabin. 9 cubits of water fell on my head, I'll bench. Amalu Rava said, Amalu Rava, Barebi Shmuel, Tanina, B'medva Mumum La'atzmai. When does Teisha Kabin help? That's for you. Avalachayim Memsa. You want to be mighty other people? You need to dip in a mikvah. It doesn't help you pour the 9 kav, right? Let me bench because I dipped in 40 saw. They explain, even though he says it fell on me, he means I dipped in the mem saw. Fell on you 9 kav, fell on me 40 saw. Let me bench. I'm better than you. Derech Agav, the Achronim saying, why are they fighting about who gets the bench? Because it says the Shulchan Aruch passages like this. We're going to see later on in the next Amud that there's a mitzvah to bench. The person who benches, he gets a schar first, and you should try and bench. You should be ready to bench. You should try and grab the bench. That's the lashon of the gemorah. It's a big schus to bench. The gemorah goes so far, now that I've started, I'll finish. The gemorah goes so far to say that someone who benches ala kais, kol mevarach ala kais, neisin lo nachla bli mitzarim. He will inherit without boundary. Nachla bli mitzarim. No boundaries. Shefa, no boundaries. So I just, my Muzga, try and explain why. Why would someone who benches like this? It's the most simple thing. You take a kais of yayin and you bench. Why is that? Yezoichet nachal b'mitzarim. Kais male, it says. Kavacha kais male. So I said, pshat is like this. This is the only bracha we have that's doraisa, right? The only bracha that's doraisa. Why is my wife calling me? She doesn't give me share. Hold on, this must be important. 1 sec. From Lashon of the Brecha, there's like the Budam, I think, is one that explains the Brecha from Lashon that there's a pool of Shefa and Shemaim that's pouring down on us. So when you're benching, you're thanking Hashem for the food you just ate. You're supposed to have a kais mala. Not just you gave the food up full, but I've still got a kais, the kais, and the kais is representing the Shefa. It's got to be a kais mala spilling out on the side. You're supposed to feel the Shefa of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. A kais mala. When you appreciate Hashem Shefa, you'll get a nachal b'li mitzarim. You get imperial Shefa. That's special. So they're fighting over who's going to bench. That's the schus, right? He says, "Let me bench. I went to the mikvah, right? You did the patient. Give me the bench. You know why? I'm not you and not him. I don't need not the Teisha Carbon and not the Arbaim Saw. So some explain it means that what? He was never Tommy in his life. He never saw Kerry in his life. Either he was never, maybe he was never married. Others say, of course he was married. It means he wasn't married. He was married. What it means is that he's saying they went to the mikveh today. They don't have, and they're still like, for the rice tumah, it's much better to go to the mikveh the day before. You have Harav Shemesh. You go to the mikveh and then you only tar the day. He said, I went to the mikveh yesterday and now I've had Harav Shemesh. Or a bunch of Harav Shemesh, so I'm like a much higher dog of tire than you. Okay, either way, he's saying, let me bench. Others want to say, you know why he's saying I should bench? He's saying, we don't paskin, you need to go to the mikveh b'chal. So Rav Chaim, a new story. Rav Chaim tova b'mali yoyim de pischot. Rav Chaim went to the mikveh erev Pesach. Since he's being mitzi the rabbim, I guess he was the chazan, so he went to the mikveh. Say we don't pass him like this, Rav Chaim, right? You don't need to go to the mikveh. Now Rashi says, what are we talking about here? He was tevel er Pesach. Rashi is toval or birich. When he went to the mikveh, he made a bracha, and we don't pass him like that. Meaning,
l'chayra, you don't make a bracha. That's what Rashi's saying. Rashi says why? Say either because we don't pass with achayim, you need to dip. You can pour with achayim, or we pass like you with a beseira. You don't need to go to mikveh b'chal, right? Question is how does Rashi know that he made a bracha? The gemorah doesn't say that. Why does he went to the mikveh Pesach, Leitzir Rabin? Why is Rashi throwing in the fact that he made a bracha? So someone want to say it's because otherwise, what's the chiddush? Like I'm sure many people went to the mikveh. Like we found a guy went to the mikveh. What's the chiddush? Like everyone went to the mikveh. I'm sure. Like it's a chumrah. Maybe why are you saying this guy went to the mikveh? So look, so that's what Rashi like muchach to say. He went to the mikveh and he made a bracha. Otherwise, like. Or someone will learn that it's coming to emphasize the fact that he went to mikveh Pesach. It made a thing out of it, right? But you might come to learn from this that you have to go to the mikveh. So Gemara's coming to say you're not chayav to go to the mikveh, and don't be makpid on tefillat Ezra. Why? The Rishonim explain because it's going to lead to bittul Torah. You can't learn Torah, you can't daven until you go to the mikveh. It's either going to lead, like we saw before, to bittul Puravu. It's going to lead to bittul Torah. We don't passing like that. You never have to go to the mikveh nowadays. Have a wonderful day, Shkoyach.